The courtroom buzzed with the restless energy of a place where lives quietly shifted direction. Wooden benches creaked as spectators leaned forward, whispering theories and judgments they'd formed long before the judge entered. The air smelled faintly of old paper, disinfectant, and nerves. Judge Harold Halvorson adjusted his glasses and glanced at the docket, already bracing himself for another predictable afternoon. This was supposed to be simple, open and shut. Officer Daniel Reyes stood tall beside the prosecution table, uniform crisp, posture trained into him by years on the force. At his side sat Rex, a muscular German shepherd with dark, intelligent eyes. The dog was perfectly still, trained to remain calm under scrutiny. Rex had helped secure dozens of convictions. Drugs, weapons, cash. His record was spotless. The prosecutor smiled faintly while summarizing the arrest. A traffic stop, suspicious behavior, a K-9 alert, probable cause, everything followed procedure. The defense attorney scribbled notes but looked tired, already sensing the uphill battle. No one expected surprises, not today. Then the side door creaked open. The sound was soft, almost lost beneath the hum of the courtroom, but heads turned anyway. A young woman stepped inside, her face pale, her eyes rimmed red as if she hadn't slept. She clutched a small hand tightly, as though afraid the child might disappear if she loosened her grip. The boy couldn't have been more than 3. He wore a blue hoodie that swallowed his thin shoulders and sneakers that squeaked against the polished floor with every hesitant step. His curls bounced slightly as he walked, wide eyes taking in the unfamiliar room. A ripple of confusion passed through the audience. Children didn't belong here, not in criminal court. Judge Halvorson frowned. "Ma'am," he began, irritation edging his voice, "this is an active proceeding." But the woman stopped walking, her grip tightened. The boy had frozen. His gaze was locked on Rex. The German shepherd remained still, ears alert, breathing steady. Officer Reyes glanced down briefly, then back up, unconcerned. Children pointed at police dogs all the time. They were curious, harmless. The boy's tiny hand slowly lifted, one finger extended, trembling slightly in the heavy air. "That's him," the child said. The words were soft, barely louder than a breath, but they landed like a gunshot. The murmurs died instantly. A sharp silence swallowed the room. Someone in the back gasped. The prosecutor's pen slipped from her fingers and clattered to the floor. Judge Halvorson stiffened. What did he say? The woman swallowed hard, tears pooling in her eyes. "He said that's him." Officer Reyes let out a short, incredulous laugh. "Your Honor, he's a kid. He doesn't even understand what's happening." But the boy did lower his hand. His eyes never left the dog. His face, small and pale, held an expression that didn't belong to someone his age. It wasn't curiosity. It wasn't excitement. It was fear. The defense attorney slowly rose from his seat. "Your Honor," he said carefully, "I believe we should hear why this child is here." Judge Halvorson hesitated. His instincts told him to shut this down immediately. Courtrooms ran on order, not emotion. Evidence, not interruptions. Yet something about the boy's stillness unsettled him. "Ma'am," the judge said at last, voice firm, "state your name and your reason for entering this courtroom." The woman took a shaky breath. "My name is Emily Carter. That dog was there the night my son disappeared." A murmur erupted, louder this time. The judge banged his gavel. "Order." Officer Reyes straightened. "Your Honor, Rex has never been involved in a missing child case. His assignments are logged. This is absurd." Emily's voice cracked. "I didn't say he was missing now. I said he disappeared." The boy's finger finally dropped, but his eyes stayed fixed on Rex. His small body trembled as he pressed closer to his mother's leg. The prosecutor stood abruptly. "Your Honor, this is highly inappropriate. The K-9 unit is not on trial." Yet, the defense attorney muttered under his breath. Judge Halvorson leaned forward, studying the child. "Son," he said gently, "do you know where you are?" The boy nodded once. "Do you know why you're here?" The child hesitated, his lower lip quivered, then he whispered, "Bad dog." Officer Ray's confidence faltered for the first time. Rex shifted slightly, nails clicking softly against the floor. The sound echoed louder than it should have. Judge Havorson felt a chill crawl up his spine. Children didn't lie like this. Not with that look in their eyes. Not with that kind of certainty. The judge raised his gavel slowly. "This court will take a brief recess." As the room erupted into stunned whispers, Rex let out a low, almost inaudible growl, just enough for those closest to hear. And the boy began to cry. The recess was supposed to calm the room. It did the opposite. People clustered in tight knots, whispering with wide eyes and lowered voices. Phones came out despite the bailiff's warnings. The moment had already escaped the courtroom, spilling into text messages and half-written posts. A 3-year-old, a police dog, a whisper that froze a judge mid-breath. Emily Carter sat on a wooden bench in the hallway, rocking her son back and forth. His face was buried in her shoulder now, small fingers gripping her jacket like an anchor. She murmured to him softly. Words meant more for herself than for him. Officer Daniel Reyes stood across the hall, jaw clenched, arms crossed. Rex sat obediently at his heel, calm on the surface, eyes scanning. Reyes told himself this was ridiculous. Children were suggestible, parents projected. Memory at that age was unreliable. He testified in dozens of cases this was noise, not evidence. Still, his pulse wouldn't slow. Judge Havorson retreated to his chambers but didn't sit. He stood by the window, staring down at the courthouse steps. In 30 years on the bench, he'd learned to recognize theatrics. He'd also learned to recognize moments that didn't fit neatly into procedure. This felt like the latter. He called for a private conference. Minutes later, the prosecutor, the defense attorney, Officer Reyes, and Emily Carter were ushered into a smaller room. The child remained with a court aide just outside, his cries muffled but constant. Judge Havorson folded his hands. "Ms. Carter," he said carefully, "start from the beginning." Emily nodded, wiping her face. "6 months ago, my son, Ethan, was taken from our apartment just for a few hours. I woke up and he was gone." Her voice shook. The door was unlocked. The police said maybe he wandered, but he was too. He was scared of the hallway. Reyes shifted, and he was found. "Yes," Emily said, 4 hours later, sitting in the laundry room 2 floors down, crying alone. The prosecutor interjected, and no suspects were identified. "No," Emily agreed, "but Ethan didn't speak for weeks after that." The room fell quiet. Emily continued. "When he finally did, he started talking about a dog, a big dog. He said it barked in the dark." Reyes scoffed softly. "Lots of kids are afraid of dogs." Emily's eyes snapped to him. He wasn't afraid of dogs before. He loved them. But after that night, he screamed whenever we passed a K-9 unit. I stopped taking him outside. Judge Havorson leaned forward. "Did you report this?" "I tried," she said. "But what was I supposed to say? My toddler says a dog scared him. They told me not to worry, that kids imagine things." The defense attorney cleared his throat. "When did you first see Officer Ray's dog?" "Today," Emily said. "When we walked into the courtroom, Ethan stopped. He went white, he pointed." Reyes felt heat rise in his chest. "Your Honor, Rex has never been alone with a child, ever. He's trained, supervised." "Officer," the judge interrupted, "no one is accusing your dog of kidnapping." Emily laughed bitterly. "I didn't say he took him, I said he was there." That distinction hung heavily in the air. The prosecutor frowned. "Are you implying police involvement?" Emily swallowed. "I don't know what I'm implying. I just know my son recognized that dog without hesitation." Silence again. Judge Havorson exhaled slowly. "Bring the child in." The door opened. Ethan shuffled inside, eyes red, cheeks blotchy. He clutched a toy car the court aide had given him. His gaze darted around nervously until it landed on Rex. His body stiffened instantly. Rex stood alert but silent. Ethan whimpered, "Mommy." Emily knelt beside him. "It's okay, baby, you're safe." Judge Haverson softened his voice. "Ethan, can you tell me why you don't like that dog?" The boy shook his head, lips pressed tight. "That's okay," the judge said gently. "Do you remember seeing him before today?" Ethan nodded once. "Where?" The boy hesitated, then pointed toward the floor. "Down." Emily's breath caught. "The laundry room." Reyes opened his mouth to object, but no sound came out. Judge Haverson felt his stomach drop. "Ethan," he asked quietly, "was anyone else there?" The boy's fingers tightened around the toy car. He whispered, "Man's shoes." Everyone looked at Reyes. "That means nothing," the prosecutor said quickly. "Children notice shoes." But Reyes remembered something then, an image he hadn't thought about in months. A late-night search of an apartment building. Rex pulling toward the laundry room. A brief moment alone while Reyes took a radio call. 2 minutes, maybe 3. His heart pounded. Judge Haverson straightened. "Officer Reyes," he said slowly, "were you deployed in that building 6 months ago?" Reyes swallowed. "Yes, Your Honor, as part of a missing child search." Emily let out a broken sob. The judge closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them with a new gravity. "This court is ordering an immediate internal review of the K-9 unit's activity that night." Rex let out another low sound, not a growl this time, but something closer to a whine. Ethan covered his ears and screamed. And Officer Reyes suddenly realized this was no longer just a child's memory. It was a door opening to something he wasn't sure he wanted uncovered. The courthouse felt different after the review was ordered, heavier, as if the walls themselves had leaned in to listen. What had begun as a routine narcotics case had quietly transformed into something far more dangerous. Not dangerous in the way of guns or drugs, but in the way truth threatened to crack open systems built on trust. Officer Daniel Reyes returned to the K-9 unit office in a fog. Rex padded beside him, nails clicking against the linoleum floor, steady and obedient as always. The familiar sounds, the hum of fluorescent lights, the distant chatter of officers, did nothing to settle Reyes' nerves. His mind replayed the judge's words over and over. An immediate internal review. Reyes unclipped Rex's leash and watched the dog circle once before sitting, eyes locked on him. Rex hadn't failed him before. Not once. Reyes rubbed his temples, trying to push away the image of a terrified child pointing a shaking finger. Across town, Emily Carter sat at her kitchen table long after Ethan had fallen asleep. The apartment was dim, the air still. She stared at the same scuffed linoleum where Ethan had once sat, clutching his toy truck, silent for weeks after that night. She had blamed herself. The unlocked door, the exhaustion, the decision to trust the police when they told her everything was fine. Now doubt flooded in like a storm tide. At police headquarters, Captain Laura Mitchell convened the review panel. She was respected, meticulous, and deeply protective of her department. But she was also honest. She pulled the K-9 deployment logs from 6 months prior and slid them across the table. "Let's start with the timeline," she said. The room filled with quiet tension as officers leaned in. Dates, times, locations. There it was. A missing child call. Emily Carter's building. Officer Daniel Reyes, K-9 Rex. Mitchell frowned. According to this, Reyes arrived at 2:14. Search initiated at 2:19. A lieutenant scanned the report. Search concluded at 3:47. Child located at 3:52 in the laundry room. Mitchell's eyes narrowed. That's a 5-minute gap. Reyes shifted in his chair. "I was clearing stairwells," he said quickly. "Rex pulled toward the laundry area early, but I was redirected." "Redirected by whom?" Mitchell asked. Reyes hesitated. by Sergeant Collins. He wanted us checking exterior exits first. The room went quiet again. Collins wasn't present. He'd retired 2 months earlier. Mitchell tapped the table. Why does the report say Rex alerted near the laundry room at 2:41, but no follow-up search occurred until after 3:40? Ray's throat tightened. Because I was told to stand down. That wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. Because what Ray's hadn't said, what he hadn't told anyone, was that Rex hadn't just alerted. Rex had stopped, sat, stared at the laundry room door and refused to move. At the courthouse, Judge Havorson reviewed the sealed notes from the conference. He prided himself on restraint, on not allowing emotion to steer justice. But the child's voice echoed in his head. Man shoes. He'd seen that look before, not often, the look of someone remembering something they didn't have words for yet. Havorson authorized a temporary pause in the narcotics trial. The prosecution objected vehemently. The defense smiled for the first time all day. Outside, news vans lined the steps. The story had broken free. Headlines scrolled across phones and television screens. 3-year-old's testimony sparks K9 investigation. Emily turned off the TV before Ethan could see it. She sat beside his bed, brushing curls from his forehead. His breathing was steady now, but even in sleep, his small body tensed whenever a siren wailed outside. That night, Ethan woke screaming. Emily rushed in, heart pounding. "It's okay," she whispered, scooping him up. "The dog," Ethan cried. "The door." Emily froze. "What door, baby?" "The loud door," he sobbed. The man said, "Quiet." Emily's legs gave out. She sat on the floor, holding him tightly as his words shattered the last fragile barrier she'd built to protect herself from the truth. Back at headquarters, Captain Mitchell requested security footage from the apartment building. Most of it had been overwritten, standard retention policy, but one camera remained. The laundry room hallway. The timestamp glitched. The footage was grainy, but it showed enough. At 2:38 a.m. the door opened. A German shepherd entered first. Then a man in uniform followed, his face partially obscured, his boots unmistakable. Ray stared at the screen, sweat breaking across his back. "That's not me," he said immediately. Mitchell paused the frame. "You sure?" Ray's leaned forward, his chest tightened. The uniform was similar, the boots were standard issue. But the badge number, blurred but visible enough, wasn't his. The room erupted with murmurs. Mitchell straightened slowly. "Then whoever that is," she said, "was alone with that child." Ray's felt his knees weaken. If it wasn't him, then it was worse. Because someone else had been there. Someone who'd never written it down. Across the city, Judge Havorson received the footage stills. He stared at the frozen image, the silhouette in uniform beside the dog. He reached for his phone and made a call he'd hoped never to make. "Bring the child back to court tomorrow," he said quietly, "and issue a subpoena for every officer who responded that night." When he hung up, the judge looked at the empty courtroom, already knowing tomorrow would change careers, families, and reputations forever. Somewhere in a police kennel, Rex lifted his head suddenly, ears alert, reacting to something no one else could hear, something moving closer whether anyone was ready or not. By morning, the courthouse was surrounded. Cameras crowded the steps, reporters shouting questions that no one inside was ready to answer. The phrase "man in uniform" looped endlessly across news banners, stripped of context but heavy with implication. Trust, once invisible, now felt fragile, thin glass waiting to shatter. Emily Carter held Ethan's hand tightly as they entered through a side door reserved for witnesses. His grip was damp, fingers curling and uncurling like he wanted to run. She knelt and met his eyes. "You don't have to talk unless you want to," she whispered. "You're safe." Ethan nodded, but his gaze drifted past her shoulder, scanning corners, doors, shadows. Inside, Judge Havorson took the bench earlier than scheduled. His face was set, jaw rigid. He slept poorly. The still image burned into his thoughts. A dog, a child, and a uniform that belonged to everyone and no one. Captain Laura Mitchell sat behind the prosecution table now, no longer an observer. She carried a thick folder, its weight symbolic. Across from her, the defense attorney watched with careful interest. Officer Daniel Reyes sat alone, uniform pressed, eyes hollow. Rex was not present. That absence was loud. "Bring in the witnesses," the judge said. One by one, officers filed in, some active, some retired, all sworn. Names were read, timelines recited. Radios crackled with memories sharpened by fear. Sergeant Collins' name came up again and again, like a ghost hovering just out of reach. "He ordered perimeter checks," an officer said. "He redirected K9, another confirmed. "No, I never saw him after 2, a third contradicted. The gaps widened. Captain Mitchell rose. "Your Honor, I'd like to submit recovered footage from the Carter apartment building." A murmur surged. The judge nodded. The screen flickered on. Grainy, muted, time-stamped. The laundry room hallway appeared narrow, poorly lit. At 2:38 a.m. the door opened. Rex entered, tail stiff, body alert. A man followed, uniformed, posture authoritative. He paused, looked down, then crouched just outside the frame. Emily felt the room tilt. Her breath hitched. She clutched Ethan closer. "Pause," Judge Havorson said. The image froze. "Enhance the badge area," Mitchell requested. The technician zoomed. Pixels bloomed, sharpened, then stuttered into partial clarity. A badge number, 2 digits clear, the rest blurred. "Not Reyes." A low rumble moved through the room. "Captain," the judge said, "how many officers would match this partial badge?" Mitchell swallowed. "For your honor, 3 active, 1 retired." "Names?" Mitchell read them. When she said the last, Sergeant Mark Collins, the room went very still. Rey's shoulders slumped, relief and dread colliding in his chest. He hadn't imagined it. He hadn't been alone. But that knowledge didn't feel like absolution. It felt like a trapdoor opening beneath his feet. Emily's attorney stood. "Your Honor, we request the child be allowed to speak, with appropriate safeguards." The prosecutor objected immediately. "He's 3. Which is why he hasn't learned to lie like adults," the attorney replied softly. The judge closed his eyes for a moment, then nodded. "Bring him forward." Ethan climbed onto the witness chair with help, legs dangling. The microphone seemed enormous. He stared at it like it might bite. "Ethan," Judge Havorson said gently, "do you remember the night you were downstairs?" Ethan nodded. "Can you tell us what you remember, just what you remember?" Ethan swallowed. It was dark. "That's okay," the judge said. "Take your time." "The dog came," Ethan whispered. "He sniffed me." Emily's heart cracked open. "What happened next?" the judge asked. "The man said quiet," Ethan continued. "He had loud shoes. He held my arm." A sharp intake of breath rippled through the courtroom. "Did he hurt you?" the judge asked, voice tight. Ethan shook his head. "He was mad," he said. "Stay." "Stay where?" Emily couldn't stop herself. Ethan pointed down. "The room with the washing." Judge Havorson leaned back, eyes burning. "Did the man leave you there?" Ethan nodded again. "He said help coming, then he go." The silence afterward was crushing. Captain Mitchell stood slowly. "Your Honor, Sergeant Collins was the highest-ranking officer on scene that night." "Where is he now?" the judge asked. Mitchell hesitated. "We attempted contact this morning. His phone is disconnected. His address is empty." A chill swept through the room. The defense attorney rose, voice careful. "Captain, when did Sergeant Collins retire?" 2 months ago," Mitchell said. "And did he retire under investigation?" "No," she admitted. "His record was exemplary." Judge Havorson's gavel hovered, then struck once. "Issue a warrant for Sergeant Collins' arrest," he said, "on charges of unlawful detention of a minor and obstruction." Gasps, whispers, shouts muffled by the bailiff's call for order. Emily collapsed into her chair, tears streaming, not of relief, not of victory, but of something heavier. Truth had a weight. It pressed down on everyone it touched. Reyes closed his eyes. If Collins had done this, then Reyes had been standing 10 feet away, trusting the wrong voice. That knowledge would never leave him. As the courtroom emptied, a deputy hurried in and whispered urgently to Captain Mitchell, her face drained of color. She turned to the judge. "Your Honor," she said quietly, "we just received a call." "From whom?" Mitchell swallowed. From a rest stop 2 counties over, a man matching Collins' description was seen with a police dog. The judge stood slowly. "What dog?" Mitchell's voice barely carried. "Rex." The news hit like a shockwave. Rex, trained, loyal, and trusted, was missing from headquarters, and with him Sergeant Mark Collins. Officer Daniel Reyes felt his stomach twist. He had worked with Rex for years, but nothing in his training had prepared him for this. A fugitive officer, a K-9, and the chilling possibility that a child's memory had been accurate all along. Captain Mitchell mobilized immediately. Phones rang off the hook. Task forces were assembled. The highway patrol was notified. Every checkpoint, every rest stop, every known route out of the city was under scrutiny. Yet the first calls trickled in slowly. "Rest stop off I-75. Possible sighting," a dispatcher said. "Rex," Mitchell barked. "Yes, ma'am, and the man matches Collins' description." Reyes grabbed his jacket and followed her out the door, heart hammering. His mind was a blur of memory, responsibility, and fear. Every possible scenario raced through his head. What if Collins had harmed Ethan or any other child? What if Rex had been trained or forced to obey him? The highway was gray and endless. Winter clouds pressed low, shadows crawling over the asphalt. Police lights blinked intermittently behind them as they sped, a convoy of urgency and dread. Reyes glanced at the passenger seat. Mitchell's face was tight, jaw clenched. She had been composed all morning, but now her eyes revealed something raw, fear. Not just for the fugitive, but for the integrity of the entire force. They reached the rest stop. It was nearly empty, just a handful of late-night travelers, trucks parked like silent sentinels. Officers fanned out, eyes scanning, hands on weapons, radios chattering softly. Then movement. Rex appeared first, his posture tense, ears high, his head lifted as if listening for a sound only he could hear. And Collins stepped into view, coat collar turned up, boots heavy on the gravel. His eyes flicked toward the convoy, a smile twitching at the corner of his mouth. He didn't run, not yet. He simply watched, calculating. "Stay sharp," Mitchell whispered. Rey's hand tightened on the leash he didn't have. He wanted to run to Rex, to take him back, to reassure him, but instinct said no. This was Collins' game. Rex's obedience was under question. A truck engine roared nearby. Collins flinched, looked around, but didn't move closer. He was waiting, watching, testing them. Mitchell whispered again, "We need him alive. Rex needs to be secured first." Reyes nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. He called Rex's name softly. The dog's ears twitched. His gaze snapped to Reyes, but then returned to Collins. The tension between them was palpable, almost physical. Collins spoke, low and deliberate. "I'd step back if I were you." "Come quietly, Collins," Mitchell shouted. "No one wants this to escalate." Collins laughed, short and bitter. "You don't understand, do you? I can't go back. Not after what I know, not after what I've done." Reyes froze, his pulse raced. What had Collins done? He'd already endangered a child once. What else could he have done in secret? Then Collins turned, motioning to Rex. The dog hesitated, growling softly, not at them, but at Collins. Ethan's words echoed in Rey's head. The man said quiet. He had loud shoes. Reyes realized Rex's growl was a warning. The dog remembered. The dog remembered that night. Collins raised a hand. Rex now. For a moment the world seemed to stop. The wind howled. Gravel shifted. Rex's eyes flicked between Collins and Ray's, uncertainty crackling in the air. Then the dog bolted toward Ray's. Collins cursed, stepping back, realizing his leverage had slipped. Ray's grabbed Rex's collar, kneeling to steady him. The dog's body shook, but he didn't bite. Not yet. He simply refused Collins' command. Mitchell and her team rushed forward, weapons drawn but pointed safely. "It's over, Collins," she shouted. Collins froze, then lunged for the truck parked nearby. He had a bag, likely the evidence he wanted to vanish. The chase began. Gravel flew under boots and tires. Officers pursued, shouting, radios crackling. Ray stayed with Rex, holding him tightly. "You did good," he murmured, voice trembling. "Good boy." But even as the dog calmed slightly, Ray's couldn't shake the weight in his chest. Collins had planned this. He had walked this line deliberately, exploiting trust, exploiting protocol. And now, a child's terror had become the key to exposing it. Somewhere down the highway, Collins was running, but for how long? And when he stopped, would it be to surrender or to strike again? Ray's glanced at Rex. The dog's gaze was steady, intelligent, but heavy with memory. That night wasn't over, not for any of them. And across town, Emily Carter sat glued to a phone, hearing fragments of the chase through the news feed, unaware that the next moment would determine whether her son's nightmare was truly over, or only beginning. The chase wound through back roads, stretches of interstate, and dimly lit towns that felt like abandoned movie sets. Collins' boots pounded against asphalt as he sprinted toward the edge of town, dragging a duffel bag that rattled ominously with every step. His breaths came in short, sharp bursts, visible in the frigid morning air. Somewhere behind him, sirens screamed, echoes of authority he had once commanded now hunting him. Officer Ray's kept Rex close, leaning into the dog's instincts. Rex's ears pricked, body taut, eyes locked on the fugitive. The bond between handler and dog had never been more crucial. Collins had trained with Rex before, but only for obedience under Ray's control. That leash had been more than nylon. It had been trust, discipline, and shared history. Now trust was everything, and everything was at risk. Captain Mitchell coordinated the perimeter from a convoy parked along the shoulder. Radios crackled with updates, officers sprinting ahead to block every escape route. Every intersection was manned, every exit under scrutiny. They knew Collins would make desperate moves. He had no plan but instinct, and desperation can be deadly. Ray's tightened his grip on Rex's collar. "Easy, boy," he murmured. "We're here to stop him, not start a war." They turned a corner and spotted him, Collins climbing a chain-link fence, the duffel swinging wildly from his shoulder. The fence creaked ominously, threatening to give way under his weight. Rex growled low in his throat, a sound that warned Ray's as much as it warned Collins. "Stop," Mitchell shouted. "Mark Collins, stop now or we'll be forced to act." Collins froze mid-climb, one hand gripping the top of the fence, the other holding the bag. His breath came in ragged bursts, face pale with exertion and fear. "You don't understand," he yelled, voice hoarse. "You don't know what I've seen." "Then tell us," Ray's barked. "Whatever it is, we'll deal with it. Don't make this worse." Collins' eyes darted nervously. He seemed to calculate every option, every angle. Then, almost theatrically, he let the duffel drop to the ground below. It hit the asphalt with a dull thud. Mitchell motioned officers forward. "Secure it and him, carefully." Ray's inched closer, keeping Rex between himself and Collins. The dog's body was coiled, muscles ready to spring, growling low. Collins flinched, realizing Rex had remembered the night Ethan had been taken, remembered the man who had been the threat. Collins' control over the dog had vanished in that instant. Ray's reached for the duffel first, but Collins lunged. Officers shouted, weapons drawn, though no one wanted to fire. The struggle was brief but intense. Collins' desperation made him dangerous, but the team was trained, coordinated. Within moments, he was subdued, cuffed, and breathing heavily on the cold asphalt. Rex let out a short, victorious bark, tail wagging slightly but still alert. He had chosen Ray's. The dog's instincts had remembered more than anyone had realized. Captain Mitchell knelt beside the duffel, unzipping it slowly. Inside, evidence that shook even her seasoned officers. Files, photographs, and recordings, documents detailing missing children, surveillance, and police operations, all meticulously catalogued by Collins. It was a trove of crimes and corruption hidden beneath the guise of public service. Ray swallowed hard. He was planning something much bigger, he muttered, voice tight. Emily Carter, now arriving at the secured scene with Ethan by her side, caught sight of Collins. Her heart raced. She had prepared for confrontation, but not for this magnitude of revelation. Seeing the man who had haunted her child's nightmares in custody, breathing heavily, cuffed, and defeated, was a mixture of relief and terror. Ethan stared silently at Rex, eyes wide but trust slowly rebuilding. The dog, still alert, allowed the boy to step closer, sniffing cautiously before lowering his head to Ethan's small shoulder. For the first time in months, Ethan's tiny hand reached out, stroking Rex gently. Captain Mitchell addressed the small crowd forming near the perimeter. Thanks to quick thinking, coordination, and Rex's incredible instincts, a dangerous fugitive has been apprehended. Further investigations will follow. Ray's knelt beside Ethan. "You were brave," he whispered, and so was he. He nodded toward Rex, whose gaze softened but remained alert. Emily pulled Ethan close. "It's over now," she murmured, though her voice quivered. "It's really over." But as officers loaded Collins into a vehicle, the duffel secured as evidence, a faint rustling sound came from the roadside. The wind shifted, carrying something faint and metallic. Rex's ears twitched. He growled low. Ray's pulse quickened. "What is it, boy?" The dog's body stiffened, tail raised. His gaze darted toward the brush along the roadside, muscles coiled like springs. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward, not in uniform but wearing dark clothing, gloves covering hands, eyes glinting in the pale morning light. And the chase, it seemed, was not yet finished. The figure in the shadows froze as Rex growled, low and guttural. Officer Ray's stepped forward, hand on his holster but not reaching for it. His pulse hammered, eyes scanning for movement. He had faced dangerous criminals, armed suspects, and high-speed pursuits, but nothing like this. Someone waiting, watching, yet remaining just out of reach. "Show yourself," Ray's called, voice steady despite the tension. The figure stepped fully into the morning light. A hooded jacket obscured most of the face, but the glint of eyes caught the sun briefly. Hands raised slightly, palms outward. No weapon visible, but instinct screamed danger. Captain Mitchell emerged from the convoy, radio in hand, speaking quietly but firmly into a mic. "Unit 4, hold positions. Do not approach until I give the word." The shadowed figure laughed softly, unnervingly. It was a sound devoid of humor, hollow and calculated. "You think it's over," the person said, voice muffled but sharp. "You have no idea." Ray's tightened his jaw. "Who are you? What do you want?" The figure tilted their head. "Do you know why the boy remembered?" Emily, standing behind the perimeter with Ethan, clutched him to her chest. Her heart raced, mind spinning. "What do you mean?" she demanded. "You think a 3-year-old suddenly recalls details by chance," the figure said, stepping closer. "Memory is not magic, it's programming, training, conditioning. And Rex, he remembers more than you know." Ray's stomach sank. "Stop talking nonsense. Leave now or we will take you in." The figure chuckled again, low and deliberate. "You've been chasing shadows, Officer Ray's, but the real puppet master is still out there. Collins was a warning, a test." "Test?" Mitchell barked. "Explain yourself." The figure glanced toward Rex, who stood rigid at Ray's side, muscles coiled, gaze unwavering. "He listens. He knows. but obedience is only as strong as the bond. The night your K9 hesitated, it wasn't fear of the child. It was a memory too powerful to ignore. A memory planted long ago by someone who knew what Rex could do. Reyes felt a chill crawl down his spine. Memory planted. The child's terror, Rex's hesitation. This wasn't just about a rogue officer. This was orchestrated, calculated, and much larger than he had imagined. "Why the Carter boy?" Emily asked, voice trembling. "Why him?" The figure smiled under the hood, expression unreadable. "Children remember. They are impressionable, but some are witnesses even if they don't know it. That boy saw something crucial, something Collins couldn't erase. And now you are all walking into the next stage." "Stage?" Reyes demanded. "Stage of what? What are you talking about?" The figure lifted a hand slowly, pointing toward the tree line behind the rest stop. Shadows shifted unnaturally in the morning light, creating the illusion of movement even though the brush was still. "The next warning. Follow, or the consequences will not be so forgiving." Mitchell exchanged a glance with Reyes. Every instinct screamed danger, but inaction was not an option. The fugitive had already slipped once. She would not allow this shadow to vanish into the mist. Before anyone could react, the figure turned and slipped into the trees. Almost instantly, Rex's ears flattened, body low, nose twitching. He growled sharply, growl deepening into a warning that sent shivers down everyone's spines. Reyes took a deep breath. "Rex, stay close, we move together." The officers advanced cautiously into the edge of the tree line, every step deliberate, every shadow suspect. Leaves crunched under boots, and the air felt tight, heavy with anticipation. Somewhere among the pines, the figure moved like a ghost, silent but always just ahead. Emily clutched Ethan tighter, who now whimpered softly, small hands covering his ears. "Mommy, the man," he said. His voice trembled. "The loud man." Reyes froze, mind racing. The boy's memory, Collins' crimes, and now this shadowy figure. It was all connected. Ethan wasn't just recalling a terrifying night. He was pointing toward something bigger, something orchestrated with terrifying precision. Mitchell motioned to officers. "Secure the perimeter. We follow, but we do not engage unless necessary. Keep your eyes open and your radios live." Hours seemed to stretch as the team moved deeper into the woods, the undergrowth thickening, branches scratching against jackets and faces. Every rustle caused hearts to leap. Every shadow could be the figure, or worse, another trap. Then as they approached a clearing, Rex stiffened completely. Tail straight, hackles raised. He let out a short bark, then growled low, warning of imminent danger. In the center of the clearing stood a cabin. Small, nondescript, but from within the faint sound of movement, shuffling, whispering, metallic clicks echoed against the walls. Reyes swallowed hard. "This is it," he whispered. "Whatever been orchestrating all of this, it's inside." Emily's grip tightened on Ethan, fear gripping her chest. Mitchell nodded to Reyes. "We move carefully, we get answers, and we bring everyone home safely." But even as they advanced, a single thought settled like ice in Reyes' veins. The man or person inside was waiting for them, and waiting meant they had the advantage. And in that moment, Rex stiffened again, eyes fixed on the doorway, as if recognizing a presence older, darker, and far more dangerous than Collins ever was. The forest was silent except for the sound of their breathing, but behind the walls of the cabin something waited, watching, calculating, and it had plans that would shatter everything they thought they knew. The clearing felt impossibly quiet. Branches hung heavy with frost crunching underfoot, yet no other sound disturbed the officers as they approached the cabin. Rex led the way, nose twitching, muscles taut. Every instinct of the dog screamed danger. Officer Reyes felt his own heartbeat echo in his ears, a rapid drum of anticipation, fear, and resolve. Captain Mitchell signaled for silence, hand raised, then slowly pointed toward the cabin door. Reyes whispered to Rex, "Stay close, stay ready." The dog lowered his body, hackles raised, growling softly, a warning that no one ignored. Emily held Ethan tightly behind them. His small hands gripped her coat, but his eyes were wide and unflinching. Something inside him stirred, as if he recognized the source of his fear, something he had only glimpsed in fragments over months. Mitchell motioned for two officers to flank the cabin. They approached silently, weapons ready but not drawn, prepared for a confrontation that could explode in seconds. Reyes felt a bead of sweat slide down his temple. He clenched his fists, trying to steady his nerves. Then the cabin door creaked open. A tall figure stepped out, face partially obscured by shadows, hands raised in mock surrender. The air between them seemed to thicken. The figure's boots clicked against the wooden floorboards as they stepped forward. "You're late," the voice said, low and measured, familiar in a way that sent chills down Rey's spine. Reyes froze. Recognition hit him like a freight train. It wasn't just a stranger. It was someone who had been inside the force, inside the system, someone whose authority had allowed them to operate in silence. "Detective," Reyes began, voice trembling. The figure chuckled, a sound hollow and cold. "I suppose titles don't matter anymore, not with the game exposed." Rex growled sharply, stepping protectively in front of Reyes. The dog's instincts had always been reliable, but now they seemed almost human in their understanding. The shadowed figure's eyes flicked to Rex, and for a moment something like hesitation passed across their face. Emily's voice broke the silence. "Who are you? Why did you do this to my son?" The figure's expression hardened. "Do you think Collins acted alone? He was following orders like all of you, just pieces on a board. That boy saw too much. That dog remembered too much. And now it all comes to light." The officers tensed. The implication was clear. The conspiracy ran deeper than a single rogue officer. There were others, people still at large, people with power. Rey's mind raced. Months of investigation, every fragment of information, every fear Ethan had whispered in the night, all of it now pointed toward a network that had used children, police, and fear to manipulate outcomes behind closed doors. The figure stepped closer. "You think this is about a single missing child. You think it's about one man with loud shoes. No, it's about control, observation, fear. And I've been watching since long before your K-9 unit even existed." Emily's grip on Ethan tightened. Her face was pale, but determination burned in her eyes. "You won't get away with this. Not now, not ever." The figure's lips twisted in a faint, mocking smile. "We'll see. But first." Their hand flicked toward a briefcase resting near the cabin wall. The metallic click of a latch echoed like a gunshot. Rex lunged. Not violently, but with precision, knocking the briefcase aside, teeth clamping on the handle just enough to prevent the figure from reaching it. The shadow froze, caught off guard. Officers advanced immediately, weapons aimed but restrained. The figure's plan, whatever it was, had faltered in a single moment. The bond between man and dog, loyalty tested under fire. Reyes stepped forward, voice commanding. "It's over. Step away from the case. You're under arrest." The figure hesitated, then slowly, deliberately raised their hands. "You think it's over," they said, "but the truth is always bigger than you imagine." Mitchell approached, taking control. "The truth is coming out," she said firmly, "one way or another." Officers secured the figure and the evidence. The briefcase contained detailed files on missing children, corrupt police actions, and surveillance logs implicating multiple individuals in a network of manipulation and fear. It was beyond anything the department had imagined. Reyes knelt beside Rex, voice soft. "Good boy, you remembered. You kept him safe. You did exactly what you were trained to do." Ethan approached slowly, hand outstretched. Rex sniffed and lowered his massive head, allowing the boy to touch his fur. For the first time, the terror in Ethan's eyes softened. Trust, painstakingly rebuilt, returned in small, trembling increments. Emily whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "We're safe now, really safe." Ray stood, looking at the figure being led away in cuffs. "Some things are bigger than us," he said quietly. "But courage, even in the smallest, youngest among us, changes everything." The morning sun broke through the clouds, casting light across the clearing, the officers, the boy, and the dog. The shadow that had haunted them was gone, but the lessons lingered: trust, vigilance, and the knowledge that even a 3-year-old could see truths adults had buried. As the crowd of officers, journalists, and onlookers began to leave, Ethan stayed by Rex's side, tiny hand brushing the dog's fur, a soft smile forming for the first time in months. And somewhere deep in the forest, hidden from sight but no longer untouchable, the remnants of the conspiracy waited, silent, defeated, but far from erased. For the first time, however, justice had teeth. And in the eyes of a small boy and the loyalty of a dog, the world seemed to right itself, if only for a moment. The courtroom, the chase, the fear, it was all over, but its echoes would linger, whispering that courage could come from anyone, anywhere, even a 3-year-old pointing at a police dog. The story had ended, but the legend had only begun.